I actually want to start like a division called Escalator Motorsports, because it's kind of like a play on words, because it's an escalator motor and then motorsports. Like, it'll be like a sim racing only. Yeah. So what's the origins of SimFin?
Sim racing and finance. So I've been working in finance for like 3 years. I got my bachelor's degree in finance and whatnot.
So it's SimFin.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to explain your channel to someone like brand new to it in a real general sense, how would you explain it? Like, what is your main focus?
Main focus would probably be come here, learn about how budget-friendly sim racing can be. On top of that, kind of explore these finance products in order to make that whole process a lot easier and smoother for yourself and not be stressed out financially. I saw a niche in the community that's not being filled at the moment. It's kind of seeing that some people may not know how to budget and whatnot, and especially when it comes to sim racing. Some people may be very wealthy that do it. As you can tell, obviously, some of the bigger YouTube channels have a lot of influence and give a lot of free products and whatnot. But I feel like for the majority of people, it's not like that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of learning how to use the products within finance and then learning how to budget within that. So, for example, like you could go with Chase. Chase Bank is getting some new features in their Chase Freedom cards where it's going to allow you to make a bulk purchase and then spread that over a couple months if you wanted to, or PayPal. Even PayPal offers something like that. So I have PayPal credit. I got it when I was like 18, and I didn't even think anything of it at the time, just because it's like I don't even know what I used it for. I think I used it to buy like a Ryzen processor or something like that, like way back in the day. And then my credit history kind of built up after that, you know, having that. And then it's just from there you learn, okay, so wait a minute, I can take this purchase and just break it down into smaller payments over a longer period of time. And at the end of the day, if you go the route that I kind of want to take a lot of people on, having to pay no interest, which is what credit card companies don't like, obviously. I worked at a bank. I know how that works.
You're into finance. Is it a passion of yours, or is it something that you just felt like it was a necessity?
I flunked out of college, actually, which was kind of bad. So I went to community college. I just took a bunch of random ass courses, right? And then I saw this finance course, like I said, the personal finance, and I just kind of just fell in love with it. But ever since then, I've just been really, really passionate about it. And I think more so now that I've gotten to actually work within the finance field itself. I was a credit analyst for a bank for about 2 years. And then right now I just switched my jobs. I'm a corporate financial analyst now. I'm taking a couple courses. So the CFA is a chartered financial analyst. And what you do is you analyze stocks, you manage portfolios of people. So that's something that's really important to me as well. My parents didn't grow up wealthy, you know what I mean? They came here from Mexico. I came here from Mexico as well. I think seeing them struggle kind of inspired me to do something about that and make that change happen for me and then future generations, you know what I mean?
So for those listening, what would be the first step?
First step would probably be to really look at your job pay. You start from there. You start from the top. Look at your fixed expenses. For example, you have a rent, you have a mortgage, or whatever it may be that's very fixed. And then once you feel comfortable with that budget, see what you can work with that's left over. And then kind of introduce whatever product you want to purchase and see if it fits within that extra budget, and then ensure that you can pay that off within, let's say, 6 months or whatever.
Having a foundational thought, like, you know, this is how much I can set aside. Okay.
Amazon has a credit card. There's the Amazon credit card. You can buy like a Logitech wheel, for example. It has 18 months of no interest. Just break that down and make payments on that, and it cuts down the cost substantially for people, you know. And people with minimum wage jobs, or 16, 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds that are just getting into college or the work field will be able to afford that, you know.
I mean, for me, it's always been really intimidating. I've actually avoided credit 100% my entire life and only use a debit card. So it's scary for, I think, I mean, obviously me, but I think it's scary for a lot of people to kind of like dive straight into that, and because it's a big commitment, right? Like,
yeah, and I think it's just the education part that a lot of people aren't exposed to. You know what I mean? When I first started college, like I was in physics, and I didn't know what I was doing there. So I hopped out of there, went to finance. That was just by a stroke of luck. I took a personal financing class, and I went from there, and I just fell in love with it. Just seeing how the numbers work and how it all pans out, and learning about credit is just really important. And I think it's especially important if you want to build like a financial foundation for yourself in the future when you want to go and buy a house and whatnot. So a credit card is a really good way to start doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is important for, I think, the majority of people. Like, the country is like based on credit at this point, you know? Are you able to show us your rig and your setup?
Yeah, hold on, let me set it up because I got my wheel down here. 3 monitors, thankfully. It's kind of nice. I bought these for $20 at like a local shop. Yeah, there's 1080p, there's 60 hertz. I think what I'll do in the future is definitely just upgrade those. My new wheel's coming in the mail sometime this week, so that should be very nice. I have a button box. This is a phone stand.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I have my pedals and the bass as well. Absolutely, I need more room at the moment, and I won't be able to do that until I move out with my fiance. So that'll be a couple years down the road.
So what's the piece of gear you got coming? You said that you have something coming?
CSLDD coming. I have the CSL pedals coming. I have the WRC racing wheel coming along with that as well. So that should be very nice. I'm excited for that, for sure.
Oh, damn. Yeah, you're going to have like a whole new setup soon.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be kind of hard about that is making sure that it doesn't shake the whole desk.
Yeah.
Because the desk is actually a door, and then I have a GTX 1080. I haven't been able to get my hands on a newer graphics card. And then on top of that, I have the 5800X.
Oh, nice. That's a great CPU.
It's been keeping me happy for a hot minute now at this point.
Are you into VR at all?
No, I haven't. My little brother has VR. I tried it, and I get dizzy.
What's your opinion on how important VR is to the future of sim racing?
Oh, I think that VR is probably really, really important just because of the fact that it's just so much more immersive. And then when you combine VR with something along the lines of like haptic feedback, that could definitely be a huge improvement into the whole experience. You could actually feel like you're in there. And then I've seen some rigs that have like these fans going and whatnot, and I think that's probably the coolest thing.
Getting into sim racing games, what would you say your top 3 are right now?
Top 3. I'm playing Wreckfest. It's really fun when you just want to do nothing. You know what I mean? You don't feel like stressed. Dirt Rally 2, and then ACC. Those are my top right now.
Okay.
And I've been looking into getting to WRC since I'm getting that wheel, and I've seen your channel too. That stuff looks really cool. I just suck at it, man. It's just tough.
It's a whole different game, yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about Wreckfest being kind of like something you can just pop on and just enjoy yourself. How important do you think sim racing is to you in terms of like a stress reliever or, for therapy,
I hop on with my brothers, and we just all have a good time. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I do play, and I also enjoy the competitive aspect of it. I grew up playing FPSs. A lot of people were a lot more toxic when you play like CS and all that. And sim racing, a lot of people understand like, yeah, you suck, and they're trying to help you along,
So overall, you felt like the community is a little bit more welcoming?
Oh, absolutely. It's just a lot more welcoming.
Do you feel like sim racing has improved your social life? This is one of the questions. It's kind of a theme.
Improved my social life. I think what I really enjoy is seeing my friends come over and then having them try out this thing, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is insane! This is crazy!" Like I saw the video of your dad, and he's just going. I don't really have much time to sim race as much as I'd like to, just because I have a full-time job and whatnot, and then I'm studying for courses still. So I get to crank down for like an hour or 2 hours a night, maybe, if that. So yeah, it hasn't been any negative side effects, thankfully. Just like anything, it could become an addiction. So I think you have to have a healthy balance.
Yeah, I think that is important. And the reason I ask that is because I feel like not enough people really realize the community aspect of sim racing. Even if you're not physically there with someone talking, chatting it up with them like person to person, you're still interacting. It's a place you can express yourself and you can help others. You know, it's a community, and I think it's really important for that. What was your first game that you can remember as a child, like your first racing game that really got you passionate about racing?
Ah, man, this is a funny one. So on the PlayStation 1, it was Hot Wheels something, and it had "Give Me Fuel, Give Me Fire." That was like the intro, it was the Metallica song, and I remember that as a kid, just absolutely loving that. It was so cool, man, and you got to unlock these cars, you just beat these people, and then there's like these secret tracks, you know what I mean? And then you go pick up these cars and you unlock them, and then you get to race with them. That was definitely the one that got me into racing in general. Yeah.
Did you feel something similar when you first kind of got into modern day sim racing, like that same sort of
that excitement factor? I definitely felt it once I had the wheel. Right, I was playing Forza a lot. I wanted a wheel since I was a little kid. Let me just go get one. So I bought a bungee wheel in the beginning. And I was like, oh man, this thing's the best thing ever, because I didn't know. And then I was reading the comments and they're like, yeah, that thing sucks. It doesn't have any force feedback. It just vibrates. And then I got the Logitech wheel. Oh man, this thing is amazing. From there, it just like spiraled out of control, buying a whole bunch of different games and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. You feel the same thing.
Do you think the gears getting to the point to where it's really like a tool for us to actually learn driving craft?
I think so. I think at this point, a lot of the peripherals, the wheels, the pedals, that stuff can become really realistic once you get into the really high end things, and not even just the high end things. I think it'll just teach you the basics of learning how to drive. Someone who's 15, 16 years old.
I taught my son how to drive in my rig.
Oh wow!
I taught him how to drive with a stick shift in my rig, and he was able to do it in real life afterwards.
Wow! Yeah, that's awesome.
With some slight differences, of course, because you know. So, what do you see in the future of sim racing? What's your vision? Like 10 years from now?
Yeah, 10 years from now, man. That's crazy to think about, right? I think that it'll be a lot more involved, and I think that esports is definitely going to grow within sim racing. I went to Watkins Glen just this past year and watched the GT3 America World Tour. That was really cool. But when I went to go and check their YouTube channel, they had some virtual races. I was like, wait a minute, I know this track. Is this virtual or is this real life? I couldn't tell because it looked like a TV quality since it was a stream at that. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not real life. This is the simulator. Like, oh my God, this is the simulator. I think that side will definitely see exponential growth for a while. And then on top of that, the simulators are probably going to get really crazy.
Okay. Like you were talking about, you know, how close real life is in terms of like from a spectator standpoint. It's hard to tell the difference, you know. Do you think sim racing can be as exciting as in real life racing, like for a spectator to watch?
I think so. But the thing I think about that is that you probably need to be invested in a particular team, just like anything. And I think what probably puts people off is that esports side, just because they might view that as lesser than the real thing. One good thing that came out of the coronavirus, the acceptance towards that kind of experience for the common folk, you know.
Why do you think that sort of negativity kind of surrounds sim racing? Like, why is it viewed as a lesser form of racing, do you think?
I think it's just because it's not real life. I don't see any lesser, but I see the differences, right? I see the differences between you're in a car, it's 90 degrees out in a day, and the driver has to be focused the entire time rather than you're sitting at home or in a arena. They're not experiencing the same effects, and I think that's probably has something to do with it. Other than that, I think just gaming in general probably has a negative stigma.
Yeah, I think that is part of it. There's less physical risk, so it's less respected. You know, you're not putting yourself in a dangerous situation other than, you know, eating too many hamburgers while you're sitting down, and it's like a heart problem. We were talking a little bit about consoles a little bit earlier. How important do you think console gaming is to sim racing?
I think it's starting to become more important. Through GeForce Experience, you can play PC games on your Xbox through the Edge browser. I think that going forward, that's going to become more of a standard for sim racing games to be on consoles. It's definitely not going to be as customizable, obviously, but it'll be a good entry point for a lot of folk.
How do you feel about subscription models?
Not good. It's like paying off a debt that you'll never pay off ever.
That's a really good way to put it. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, I feel a similar way. I've spoken openly about my dislike against Tesla. I think they do a lot of great things, and I like Elon Musk a lot. I think he's a really forward-thinking individual. But yeah, it's uncomfortable with my primitive brain to think about something like, wait, I don't actually own this. Yeah, like, you buy one of their cars, and then you find out you have to pay another, $5,000 or $1,000 to unlock its full capabilities. It's like, well, what did I buy initially? When you buy that booster pack or whatever it's called, the equivalent of the CSL boost kit to Tesla, when you buy that, it's attached to your account, right? Your Tesla account. So if you sell that vehicle to another user, that software that was installed, they don't get that. They have to buy that separately. That $1,000 kit you bought and installed on the car is no longer available to the next user. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's you can see it right there, man. Like, that's just not good. Not good for anybody. It's a waste of capital resources, that's for sure.
It just feels like, like you're spending your money on something that literally disappears in front of your face. Have you gotten into iRacing at all?
Not yet. I'm looking into that. Have you?
No. I don't think I ever will because I hate their subscription model.
Yeah.
I'm just fundamentally, it's like something I just don't agree with. I can understand like you were saying, it is a service, right? Like, so you don't ever truly own a service. It's something that's done for you on a continuous basis. It's not like a solid thing, So I understand that, but I was actually speaking about this with one of the last interviewees or SimTerviewees. You can purchase a lot of things. You can purchase different cars and tracks, but if you stop paying, everything you bought and invested in is not available to you anymore. And I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I think that's why I have been putting it off, just because the subscription model. I saw it on Steam. I saw iRacing, it's $14.99. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound too bad.
It's like, no, it's $14.99 per day. Yeah. Going back to console gaming, how do you feel about like PlayStation, like really locking down their console and making it to where only specific things are able to be used with their console?
I don't like that. I don't like exclusivity. I absolutely hate that. I think it divides so many things, I understand why it's done. I remember when I was a little kid, I wanted to play Halo, for example. I had a PS2 and I couldn't play Halo just because I didn't have an Xbox. So having to own so many boxes, I think it just hurts the consumer at the end of the day.
Yeah, because there's less available to them. Yeah,
right.
I think the way of the future for games in general is just to have like a platform and they purchase all the same games. I think that would be nice.
Do you believe that's the way it's heading at the moment or no?
Yeah, I do. Seeing how Sony is a little bit more accepting of putting some of their biggest exclusive titles, on PC. That's actually something that's, in my opinion, not going to hurt the consumer. It'll just make it to where they'll be more available to you. Of course, then they're going to start locking down the PlayStation subscription service, like, yeah.
$60, right off the bat. You can use the game that you bought because you're not paying for that subscription.
Going a bit deeper and a bit more morbid, when I was just getting into digital gaming on the PS3, I stopped buying physical games mainly because it was convenient, Anyway, I researched a little bit more and I found out in their policy, when you die, your library is not able to be accessed by other people. So you never actually truly own any of the games. It's only purchased for the lifetime of the user. So you can't actually transfer, you can't hand down your games to your son or your daughter, they're gone. For video game preservation reasons, it's not like hugely important because, like you said, we have emulators and people are like ripping shit to the internet like left and right, which I partially agree with for preservation reasons, and then I also disagree with for reasons for the developer's sake. You know how there's a lot of racetracks closing down everywhere?
Yeah.
Like what about that? Like those tracks just disappear, or can we preserve them digitally forever?
Absolutely. Like you said, you have the like 1968 Porsche that was like shitty. It only lasted a race, and that was that. But now you
Yeah.
have it. Now we preserve it forever in
Yeah.
the game. Yeah, I think that's a really really good point.
Yeah.
I didn't see it like that, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's why laser scanning is a really important technology as well.
Right. It's like a snippet of what that track was at that day at that particular time. It's insane.
Taking a picture, you're in the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get that digital snapshot of that track, every little bump that's there at that time is going to be there 100, 200,000 years from now, you know? Aliens look back on us and, they're like, what were these people doing? Like, and they'll get to like sim race and be, oh, I understand like why they like this, like, yeah, it's gonna be kind of cool.
Reminds me of that speech that Mark Zuckerberg just had, the metaverse. He wants to build like a virtual reality, like a universe within our universe, right? I could see that going really bad or really good.
Yeah.
But I don't trust it.
I'm actually really excited about that. And I do agree. I think it could go really wrong or really good. What are some things that you think can go wrong?
Data breaches. That's really important. And that's just becoming a more prominent issue. And I don't think that we have the security. A lot of people and a lot of tech, even though they're massive, giant corporations, people will always just find a way. It's just human nature.
Yeah, to find exploits and exploit the exploits. Yeah, it's the modern day equivalent of getting like mugged. Like it's always happened. It's always happened and it always will. There will never be a time where you are 100% safe in your environment, whatever the environment may be. The computers we use, right? Like even if we had no outside interference from like the internet or whatever, sometimes people's computers still don't work, right? Like you'll be doing something and something crashes, right? Like little problems that creep up and they attack. It exists in all forms of. I'm not going to even say life. I'm just going to say everything.
Right.
Everything has issues, and that's one of our issues being humans is we have other humans that want to take what we have, so.
I did a senior research thesis my final year in college, and one of the things that I was researching with one of my professors was the effects of artificial intelligence within the U.S. economy. And one of the interesting aspects that I found out when it came to kind of building an AI, machine learning, and all that is that whoever is writing code, let's say you want to build for like sim racing or solve a problem, it'll always have that human bias within it because there's a human behind creating that specific program or a product.
So in your opinion, until a computer designs AI somehow, it'll always have the human flaw.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have some belief towards, the inevitability of AI becoming just 100% its own thing, right? Like it's separate from us. Not necessarily like an individual because it's like an omnipresent thing. Instead of like trying to control it and trying to get it to do what we want to do you think we'll ever like be side by side with it and just coexist?
Have you played Deus Ex?
No.
It's so it's a very similar concept to what you just described. At the end of the game, you have the chance to either destroy the artificial intelligence, meld with it, or you have the choice to let it control the whole world.
Spoiler alert.
What I decided to do was kind of just meld with it. Many people will absolutely take advantage of that in a sense that it'll be good for them to do it. And there's going to be some others who will not want to do that. And that will create a large disparity between people who decide to go along with it and not go along with it.
That will be the future sort of coronavirus where there's like the anti-vaxxers versus the vaxxers, the people that wear masks versus the people that don't. That'll be the next big thing. I agree with that. So do you think AI, getting back into sim racing specific, do you think AI has a place in sim racing? Like that you can think of some really practical uses for it?
Yeah, I think just the AI itself, when you race with the computers in the game,
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we do use it in like DLSS and stuff like that, like for image enhancing. I mean, we do obviously use AI for things right now. I just realized how stupid of a question that was when, you know, out of all the different types of racing there are in sim racing, you know, GT3, GT4, whatever, F1, rally, whatever. What do you think is the best represented in your opinion? Like the most authentic?
At this point in time, I'd probably have to say the GT3 just because of the amount of money that they have put into that game and trying to make it feel really realistic. When I went to watch the actual races, the cars sounded so much alike in the game and in real life.
Going back to something I kind of feel is important. Sim racing as a spectator sport, you know, getting more people involved and getting more people interested in, you know, maybe not even people participating, but just being interested in it as a sport. I think replays are essential to kind of get more people interested in digital motorsports. When people aren't actually involved in the racing portion, but they just want to watch the races because they want to follow their favorite drivers or whatever, I think the replay systems are really important because that's what people can really connect with in terms of comparing it to real life. I think that's really important that companies, developers should focus on the replay systems because a lot of their games replays are not convincing. That wasn't really much of a question. That was more like an added statement. I apologize.
I think absolutely makes a huge difference. Those replays are key.
I think another important aspect of getting more people into it and bringing more human element to it is instead of relying on predetermined points like for like a digital camera to follow a digital car, you know, why don't we hire some people to go into a virtual space with a, you know, a VR headset and then give them some virtual tools to actually film it live in a digital space?
Yeah, I see exactly what you mean. Yeah, that'd be really, really great. That's a good point. I never even thought about that, but that'd help it out a lot for sure.
I mean, think about this. The Oculus Quest 2, right, is a readily available headset that you don't need to tether to a PC, right? So imagine like a dedicated warehouse just for like filmers, you know, like a sort of a room scale, maybe not the size of a track, but just enough to where like they could be in the middle of it and not worry about like hitting a wall, you know, while they're in VR or whatever. And they could walk around the track and get their exact points that they feel as a photographer, you know, they could get the exact points that they want to capture, you know. And instead of like going in the eyes of a developer and like, you know, using your mouse to kind of like be like, oh, this looks like about right where a camera would be, like you'd actually be right where a camera would be. Like you're standing up, you're crouching, you know, that extra level of detail that you could only get from a photographer or a videographer's eyes, you know. I think that could be really cool for content creators too, to watch their car go by at a certain location and they could follow along with it and interact with themselves.
Right. That's meta.
Yeah. How important do you think driving will be in the future? Like with, you know, the onset of self-driving vehicles and stuff like that, do you think it'll just be more of like a racing, I think, will eventually become the only reason to drive?
Yeah, I agree. The way the whole remote economy is going to be going towards, there will still be a need, I feel like, for driving in general. However, I think that driving will become more of a hobby for more people, and they will take that as a luxury instead of a necessity.
So are you on board with the whole concept of Neuralink? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I've definitely heard about it. It's very exciting. If I'm able to access information 10 times faster, let's say I want to Google what the year the president was born or whatever, and there was like a trivia question in a game show. If I have that Neuralink, I'll be able to do that on the fly. If I didn't, I would have to really work hard and memorize all these facts. And the way our memory is going towards as well, we're not remembering the things that we used to remember as much. So we will probably need that aid from artificial intelligence or that chip, whatever it may be, to enhance ourselves in order to function in a society that throws so much information at you every day.
It's one of those things like when I think about it, it's frustrating to me because I feel like the closer or the more we rely on AI and digital media, digital memories, I feel like it kind of takes away from the importance of us. If we have access to every bit of knowledge, just like that, does knowledge matter as much? If we, if we're able to access, every thought, what makes us individuals? What makes us unique? And is that important? Is that important to be a unique individual? Like, I don't know. But it's one of the things that's bothersome about moving closer towards that, and it's not at a slow rate. It's at an accelerated rate, Like you just said, like we're relying less and less on our own spot in our brain that holds memories. We rely on our phones to remember telephone numbers. Actually, just recently, I had to reference one of my own video tutorials to figure out how to make a game work with motion. I couldn't remember. I'm like, I remember all the steps, right? Like I made this tutorial, right? Like, so I'm like, okay, I did this. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get something working. So I looked at my own tutorial for WRC9 to make motion work with WRC10. And I had forgot a very important step. But I'm like, I'm the one that made this tutorial. How do I not remember this? I got really frustrated with myself. It was kind of funny, but it was so weird to have to rely on a digital version of myself to remember something. I do see the value in never forgetting something again, like being able to access a memory of yours, eventually through your own eyes, right? Like, not from an outside perspective, of a camera looking at you. You'd be able to see it through your own eyes eventually. I do see the value in that, but it also is really scary. And I think it's scary for all of us because it's unknown,
Right. And the things that are unknown are very scary. I used to post a lot of pictures on social media. I had an Instagram. I had a camera. I'd go around and just take pictures of the things that I enjoyed and kind of express myself through that. Do I want to keep doing this? I'm like, I don't care for it anymore. So I got rid of it. You can remember more from specific events that you go to, and you don't photograph video or some stuff like that. You remember those memories, and they impact you in a more deeper level, right?
So are you saying that you remembered more from your experience when you stopped focusing on trying to preserve those moments? Like you remembered it more?
Yeah.
You held on to it more. It was more important to you because you felt like if you didn't hold on to those memories, you would have nothing to rely on to harken back to them. There used to be like an old saying that, and people still use it. It's not like it's a contemporary saying, but it was created a long time ago, that cameras steal your soul,
Yeah.
Taking a picture is stealing someone's soul. And it was kind of funny because back when that saying was, created, we had no idea that, video was coming, video. And, it was just like that picture was what the technology was. It was this, and that's stealing your soul. And now as we've developed it further into like motion and like what we're doing right now, like live real-time video feed representing life, it's even more true kind of, and like what you were saying, it kind of steals the moment from you, even though you can remember it better because the photo is an accurate representation of what was actually there. You can't remember much else sometimes because you're relying on that, that tool to help aid in the memory. So it's really interesting. And so going back to Neuralink and stuff like that, I know it's first being developed for people that are have like disabilities like Alzheimer's and things like that, like where people can't remember, like they're not able to remember. And this could be used as a tool to like allow people to actually just access a part of their brain that might not be developed anymore, might not have the capability of being accessed. We'll create a new drive, basically. Like, if your C drive is full or not operational, you put an F drive or you put a G drive or whatever. So like we're adding a drive to our brain, and I think it could be useful for that. Like if you don't want to get into, accessing the internet, like just like, like I'm on the internet.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. You can maybe just use it for remembering what you want to remember, like it doesn't have to be maybe a scary technology. We've really moved far away from sim racing. I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This is great. I think we tied everything together regardless of that fact, So I think it was good.
Going back to sim racing specifically, what's the next big thing that'll help sell the experience in terms of immersion?
In terms of immersion, that's a good question. I think it's the G-forces that's what's missing, and how would you be able to simulate that, right?
There are G-force things, like they're like $1 million machines, and typically they only go one direction, I think, to like for NASA. But yeah, like at a consumer level, I think that's the biggest hurdle. That's like the what is it, the golden egg or whatever it's called, the holy grail is G-forces, and we can replicate momentary G-force, at a real small scale. But yeah, like what are some ways that we could kind of get over that hurdle, do you think?
So the way I see G-forces as well, it's just a sensory perception, right?
Yep.
That's all it is. And have you heard of the phantom limb? Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Humans are not machines, so we don't have that static signal going from one place to the next. I mean, with Neuralink, what you could technically do, I suppose, is implement some sort of function. Once we know and realize what the G-forces connections are being made in your brain, maybe that's the way to do it, but that's just so invasive.
Can you imagine, like, let's say someone is hooked up to Neuralink and they've successfully made G-forces possible, right? Like, and it's somewhat widespread. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever, however many people using that feature of Neuralink. And then you got that one guy that has a glitch in their brain now, and they're experiencing G-forces for the rest of their life. And and they're like,
what do you do in that instance, right? You can't do anything. You try to revert back. You got to back up or anything, something like that. You don't know.
You got to go back to the last firmware patch, or like we went straight back to Neuralink. Once you experience a simulator, does it kind of taint your view of other games that are not simulators, like Forza and
I don't think it necessarily taints it. I just think that you can't play it properly the way you want to play it, right? So if I want to play a game with the racing wheel and I can't play it anymore with the racing wheel just because the physics don't feel right anymore. And absolutely that will taint your vision of that. Plug in a controller, that all goes away because I was used to playing it like that.
There's some games that like kind of blend it, like Dirt Rally 2. Dirt Rally 2 plays really well with the controller, and I'm actually really impressed with that. But also, it's not quite a simulator in terms of the physics. Like, there's a lot of things I'm disappointed with in terms of how a car handles in that game. Are you interested in Dirt Rally 3?
Yeah, I'll definitely be taking a look into that. I'm excited for that. I'll have to get VR for that. That motion sickness, it's initial, right? But it doesn't last forever. It's just the first 10 minutes, and then I get used to it.
Oh, okay. So you're not saying like you get sick, like you put it on, you experience it, and then you're like sick for the rest of the day kind of thing. It's just while you're in it, and you can get over that. Okay. One of the biggest issues in the adoption of VR, do you think it's just because there's no real way to test it out? Like there's no real, like, unless you have a friend,
Yeah, I think that's probably why. It's just not, and the price as well.
VR headsets moving towards being a standalone device, not needing that sort of connection with a phone or a PC or console or whatever. They're becoming the console themselves. It works on its own. Like, I think that's going to be a big factor for VR, and the adoption of it, because you don't need the PC,
Right. What I've noticed when my little brother, because he's got a PC, he's got a 1050 Ti in it, and that was one of the biggest issues that he was having, was not being able to properly output the resolution that he wanted within that, because it's rendering in the back and then it's rendering in the headset. You know what I mean? So that made it difficult for him to get into the VR in general, just because you have to lower down your settings, you got to turn them all the way down.
That's a good point you brought up, and the fact that hardware is so hard to get a hold of right now. I think we need to lean more on AI and more on upscaling. Someone is working on an upscaling technology that'll work with all VR headsets. I'm a big advocate for learning the limitations of your vehicle. there's a lot of people on the road, probably 99% of the people on the road have never been in an accident, have never slid out, have never pushed their car to the point that they're breaking traction, you know? So when you get in those situations where it's a safety concern, it's important to know where that limitation is, that threshold. You know, it's really important as a driver. You're like, you know, they teach you all about driving safety, and everything they teach you in driving safety is to never push your car to the point to where you're out of control. But knowing where that point is very important for safety reasons.
I remember when I first started sim racing, I had no idea what people were saying when they said you have too much oversteer, you have too much understeer. Like, I didn't understand that concept because I didn't know how it felt. I was Googling everywhere. Once you've had enough experience within whatever sim you're in, then you understand, oh.
Yeah, and I think that's a really big positive aspect of sim racing is you're in a safe environment to learn all that. I think it was Sim Racing 604. He had proposed an idea for a sim racing association, an association that deals 100% with quality control of sim racing content like games, services, and even gear. You know how like they put like stamps of approval on things to let you know it's a certain level of quality?
Oh, right, like the Nintendo seal of approval.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yeah, like so you know you're getting this level of quality at least.
I remember when I was trying to look up like, oh, what's the most realistic racing game or whatever. There's just so many opinions, right? So the work I do right now, what I've noticed is setting like standard operating procedures or having a set standard for something is very, very important, right? Once you have that minimum requirement of one thing being acceptable and the other thing not, what's the next tier up from that? People will get into sim racing and feel confident that, yes, this thing performs to what the standard is and they're not lying to you and advertising. And it comes back down to that whole transparency thing that you like, that you love, you know?
How do you feel about proprietary connections? You think there should be kind of some standardization there too?
Oh, absolutely. Kind of like the whole Apple thing that just went on in Europe. Oh, you guys have this Lightning connector, but there's a perfectly acceptable USB-C connection that you guys could be using. Why aren't you using that? Apple? The same thing for the sim racing gear.
On the flip side, though, I do understand the reason why proprietary things exist, because maybe they think that there's a better way to do it, and this is the way we do it. We feel it's better than this. But in my opinion, I kind of feel like a lot of the reasons why these proprietary connections are implemented is to keep you in their ecosystem. Like, that's bottom line. How do you feel about content creators that, like, you kind of feel like they've been bought almost, when the entire video kind of feels like an advertisement rather than an actual look at the product? It's entertainment, you know.
And the thing is like, I don't knock them for doing what they do. You know what I mean? It's not what I would do, but to each their own differences, right? I have seen some streams too where it's just like they're just straight up pushing that product. Do they even
believe in the
care
product?
About like and believe in the product or care about the community? Because it's just a whole advertisement the whole time.
Yeah, they're almost an employee of that company at that point, rather than like someone looking at it objectively, like, this is what the product is, this is what it can offer you, and this is what it's not quite good at, you know?
What I've learned a lot just these past few years when it comes to ethics. So for the CFA, they have a code of ethics that you have to abide by. That's a charter that you obtain after you pass 3 exams, but they really emphasize the ethics portion within that whole structure. My objectivity, is it swayed in any way? And how can I avoid from my objectivity when I'm reviewing a product? Kind of applying some of those ethics into that whole reviewing process for those products would help that whole stamp of approval process, you know?
As you know, I do get a product sent to me for review. If it has negative qualities, if it's got positive qualities, I'm going to try to enlighten people, you know, and provide transparency to the people watching this, because people come to our channels, right, to get firsthand experience on something that they can't necessarily try out. The boutique gear that you can only kind of get by having it, they can't just go to the store and then try out a wheelbase. Like, that doesn't exist. We're in a really unique position where we're the only source of information we can give out to people. So when you get your CSLDD, and you pick it apart, like what you do and don't like about it, that's valuable. I think it's our responsibility to be transparent and really let people know what it is we have in our hands.
I think one thing I appreciated from your review of the CSLDD wheelbase was that fact that you said, look at this USB cable. Like, what's up with this thing? Like, this thing's flimsy. I feel like it's going to fall off. Sometimes it's just that one specific product. You know what I mean? And you can't tell at that point because you just have one sample. It's one sample. And when what you said, being able to create that whole community, getting more products, getting more samples, it creates more data that you have to make more informative decisions on.
And that's an advantage of sim racing growing too, like elitism and people not wanting to bring in newer users because they feel like this is my thing, this is my cool thing, I don't want more people here. It's overall a good thing, the more people, the more data we have, like you're saying. So it can only be a good thing, I think, that we grow together.
I was thinking the exact same thing. It's just what my take with sim racing and finances is to make it more affordable, so more people do enter that scene, making them realize that, wait, I can actually afford this product. Look, let's just do a quick example. The Logitech wheels 200 and 238, let's say you get it for like 250 on Amazon, and then you split it up for 18 months interest free, right? There's no interest on that.
Oh, damn. I thought you were using a fake you had a real calculator right there.
Yeah.
You were putting some data in there.
So that's $14 a month for 18 months with no interest. Think about that. Who that's like a subscription, right? But that's, at the end of the day, you're going to be owning that product.
That's a lease to own kind of situation, right? Like you will own that.
$14 a month is something that a lot of people can definitely come up with, and especially if they want to get into sim racing, I don't see an issue with $14 a month,
Unless it's iRacing.
Yeah, unless it's iRacing. You never own that.
I think the biggest danger of getting credit going is lack of education, on the topic, and it's me too. Like, that's one of the reasons why I avoid it, is because I'm scared of it. I don't know enough about it. I think it's really important to kind of reach out to people like yourself that have experience with it, that can help guide you. So I know, YouTube is a great platform for you to get your information across. Have you thought about making or putting together kind of like an online tool, like specifically geared towards sim racing, like that compiles all the different manufacturers and stuff like that, and kind of breaking it down for someone like in an easy to consume like tool, like these are the things I want, what do I need to do to get it, kind of thing?
Oh, I never thought about that actually, but that's a really good idea.
Yeah, like I don't know how it would work, but yeah, just compiling all the known products on the market and just telling you, like, okay, if you want this gear and this gear, and this is how much money you have, this is how you need to finance it for this many months, or
What? Yeah, that makes real good sense actually.
So it's more consumable,
Right. I can see how that tool could be used, and how that's a really good idea.
People are intimidated by seemingly simple things, but when you actually, put it in front of someone, like, here are the things you need to do step by step, like tutorials, right? Online YouTube tutorials make it to where someone's able to fix something that previously they'd be, I don't want to even touch this, I'm scared to take this apart and not be able to put it back together. Without that tool, they would not even attempt it. But with the tool, they would be more willing to sort of dive in, because they have that reference, to do more with what they already can do themselves. They just don't know that they can do it. But is there anything else you want to say, or anywhere you want to guide people? Investopedia.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing to check if you want to just know the real basics.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time, man, and giving me a look into your to you and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're just sharing the world together, So
yeah.